Hello everyone and welcome back to another WARNO deck deep dive, this time featuring the 152nd French Infantry Division, as this division has been in the shadow ever since it came out with Nemesis 2. But now, with Nemesis 3, it finally got the buffs it deserved, and that really pushes it into a solid spot. And yeah, we're gonna have a look in my current deck here on the Nemesis 3 patch that is coming out this week, and have a look at what I changed in it and why I think it is a decently viable deck here now after all these buffs. I don't think it's a super strong deck yet, but it should be decently viable now. So we have the logistics tab where we have two CV cards, the VAB PC and classic Jeep here, and then two TRM 2000s, really good supply trucks, good supply amount, decent price there, so that you can just slot one in there, getting them out. Really one of my favorite supply trucks out there, but that doesn't play a big role. And the infantry tab is way more important, obviously, and we have 64 infantry units, and that is with some elite units in here as well, so that's really a good number, as you really get a good mix of infantry units on their own, and you get a couple of decent support units with them nowadays as well, including the VIB here for the commander layer, super important unit, your only 4 deploy unit. It comes with an AT weapon and it has a decent amount of firepower here, a 9-man squad with a sniper rifle and a mini-me. If it would have its second mini-me, it would be really great. It pays a bit extra for the security trade and so on. If it would not have the security trade and would be 5 points cheaper, the unit would be better in my eyes. But with shock, special forces, the IV trade and so on, the unit has a lot of traits, and together with the VIB, which brings a decent 20mm to the case to help out against infantry, it does a decent job here as well. Against light vehicles, the 20mm can work as well. It doesn't have AP shells though, so that's the main weakness there, but it can damage helicopters. So a really good package for the early game, and that's why this key unit here with 2 cards gets you. The choice for going for only 2 might be interesting if you really want to rush it and you really want to have these guys out there early game. I rather go 48 with only 1 veterancy. So the special force upvetting can be quite powerful as well here for these guys. And then we have the Mazarines, first with the Apilas for 60 points here, coming up in a VAB, as that is a pretty decent vehicle. Unfortunately no smoke, but 50 cal can be helpful. And then we have the normal ones that don't get the Apilas, but they get a sniper rifle. So this is a really solid, powerful 60-man infantry versus infantry unit, and the LRAC is still a fine AT weapon as it has good range and accuracy. Damage not amazing, but the range and accuracy are key factors here. So these guys do a good job as well. You got a second card of this really solid unit, so that helped out the division quite a bit, because the other units here are not that important. And then we have reservists, which are just pretty spammable. One here with AT weapon, 35 points, that's the flank unit here. And then the normal ones that can come with a reserve VAB, that's more for the vehicle spam here. So you get 10 hit point units that you can put in front of your other units or behind them. Let the Mazarines tank with their resolute trait, depending on how you want to do it. And the reserve VAB here with a 20 point 50 cal can be quite handy as well. And then we have VAB Milan with Milan 1 inside for a bit of extra ATGMs. Unfortunately, this one also not having smoke, but an ATGM and a 50 cal here are quite nice, kind of like your makeshift IV here in this deck. And then you get a Mazarine Milan 2. This one I don't take with the VAB Milan, just for getting it a bit cheaper. It just comes in a Jeep, so that you can get a couple more ATGMs out there onto the battlefield. And yeah, it really gets your numbers going. Classic 1 veterancy here on all the standard units, 2 vet on the commandos, and then 0 vet on the reservists. Doing the job that you need to do. Like, you have your strong infantry here, you have your cheap spam infantry for the side, and you have your elite port deploy infantry here, so everything you want out of infantry in the infantry tab is there. You just don't get IVs, but that's something you have to live with in a deck like this. At least you get a lot of APCs as well. So infantry tab is pretty strong. Artillery tab, we get some mortars, because smoke screens are pretty important in this deck. If you want to push it forward with your infantry, then yeah, the 81mm mortar is key. And then you also get an okay 155mm artillery piece. It only has 3 rate of fire, so it's not a good one. But in a fight where you fight against an airborne deck or so, which doesn't get artillery, this can make the difference. So that's what this is for. It's not here really for battle against other artillery decks, as with the low rate of fire it also means it has to stay longer on a position to fire its salvo, meaning it's more vulnerable to counter battery and so on. So you don't want to go into artillery battles with this gun, but against decks that don't have much artillery, this one can be quite key to get you the advantage that you don't get through massive forward deployment. Tank tab got buffed nicely as well. The VAB Mephistos have been great always. The Hot 2 is a fantastic missile. Great accuracy, good damage, good range. And you get your cheap Milans here for the side for some ATGM action as well. And then the AML-90 and the AMX-13 both got cheaper, 10 points. So they are still not fantastic vehicles. The 14 pen here is an issue. That means they can't one-shot anything. Really, that is like bigger than 1 armor. So that is a problem. But with the high rate of fire and and having smoke, like both of these vehicles are in a decent spot now, can be decent fire support with this as well. You just don't get to fight tanks with this really. But if you get enough numbers now with 50 points, you can potentially do a bit of damage there as well. Though really killing tanks you have to do with ATGMs in this deck. Like the tanks don't do that, and even against some IFVs you will struggle. The range here really being a big differentiator to something like an AMX-10 or so, as you can't just snipe the enemy from afar, you have to get somewhat close, and then the accuracy is not fantastic on either of these either. But the high rate of fire on the AMX-13 is quite fun, and the AML-90 is fast and can do a bit of sneaky moves here as well, mediocre stealth. So for 60 points, it starts to become pretty decent. It's still not amazing, but it does get the job done. Same goes for the AML-90 in the recon tab, as that gets you very good optics. And then we have a good optics, but really important unit here with the AML-60, as that just got smoke shells. Those are direct fire smoke, so you can't just indirect fire with them over an obstacle, but you can lay a nice smoke screen at 1925 meter range and use that for your push with your infantry. So a nice addition to this unit, and yeah, really helpful to push with your infantry, which needs good smoke to do the job. And then we have the Mazarine Eclairs, strong recon infantry, can deal a lot of damage with the 2 mini-me's, can win against a lot of infantry units. The Apilas can kill any vehicle out there, and the smoke grenade helps to disengage when you get caught out in a mediocre spot, or can help setting up a push, especially if you combine them with the Commander Lair. Like, that can set up early pushes quite nicely. And then the Reservist declares 20 points with an AT weapon. That is really good. You just put them on flanks, and if an enemy vehicle comes by, you can shoot them. It's not a terrible AT weapon, but it is an AT weapon for 20 points, making this a pretty decent recon unit. Like, you don't want to fight anything, but they have the very good optics. That's all you're here for. And if the enemy comes close with a vehicle, you have a chance of at least stunning it, potentially damaging it a bit, or maybe killing it if it's a light vehicle. And then AA tab got buffed a bit as well. The Cartel got better, cheaper, 125 points now, so that is a pretty nice unit. The Bofors here is still pretty terrible. The TRM 2000 is a unit worth considering, but we get a 20mm AA piece here with the VAB T20, which is similar to the VIB, just without the special forces. But the VAB here, T20 here, good vehicle. And you get the Mistrals inside, which are fantastic as well. And the Saber here coming in nicely as well, as an anti-infantry unit with special forces. So upweighting them is quite nice, as it gives them you should go for the max vet here, because it goes from 5 to 4. And the accuracy buffs and so on thanks to Special Force having a bit of a different red curve, are quite nice, giving these guys a lot of damage against infantry. So the Saber Ray here, actually pretty fun, and moving a bit faster than normal guns on the ground as well, making this a quite decent little AA piece. Not so helpful against helicopters, with its buffed aim time and so on, decent against aircraft actually, but yeah, mostly an anti-infantry tool here that you want to push forward with. Helicopters, the 20mm autocannon helicopter, pretty decent with Abwehr, can be nice on the flank as well, can shred through things there, and it can survive one man-pad hit, which is quite nice. And then you have a pretty terrible AT helicopter, but it is an AT helicopter that the enemy has to respect somewhat, so that's why it is here with the AS-111. You get a lot of them, so, and the enemy has to respect that you have something there that can hit them. So yeah, just having some around can be nice. I still think it should be 45 points, but that's okay for now here. The helicopter here just sitting on the side, shooting some missiles at the enemy. And then the air tap got buffed nicely as well. You got cheaper Mirages, which are now pretty cost efficient again. You got F8s with higher availability, and especially this one here is nice because it has 2 long-range fire and forget missiles with the R530 that you can just use to keep the enemy at a standoff distance, and you get 2 of these for 160 points or 3 for 240 points, so you can get all 3 in 1 minute and just pay less than an enemy pays for one fighter potentially, and you get 6 missiles that just fly at the enemy on long range, and then you can just turn away. And let's see what it does. So that is pretty decent here for the F8 piece here. So doing their job there decently. And then you get the Super 18 Dart with AT, which has good AT missiles. And the HE, which has a good HE loadout. Though unfortunately no Sidewinders, or Magics, but it has a lot of bombing power. That is quite nice. And then with the availability buff to 5, the Magister here can just constantly be in the air and shoot AT missiles if the enemy doesn't get anything on the ground to shoot at it. And it got some buff and that it got its aim time removed, so this works a bit better now, works decently proper now. So the enemy has to respect it if it's around, and they have to keep AA around, otherwise you can always come around and just be annoying with these. And for 90 points and with 5 availability, you can really keep these coming and just be a constant nuisance to the enemy. So yeah, what does this deck do well? It does have a fantastic infantry type. It does have a lot of vehicles, a lot of cheap vehicles, and it has a good air tap now. What it doesn't get is any real MBT. It also still has less fort deployment than the enemy, and it only has a weak artillery type, which for an infantry type deck can be pretty important. So no MLRS, no big guns that really have any crunching power. So those are the weaknesses here. But in general, a lot better than it has been before. And I'm interested to see where it goes if the pure power of the spam can elevate this division in, especially with the smoke and so on that it has now. Like, it has a couple of more capabilities now, and the AT plane spam and so on. If it has some potential in some matchups now in tournament play as well. I don't think it will be great for the ranked ladder still, because there you just have too many different maps, too many different matchups, and if that's unpredictable, you're not good against everything, that's for sure. And a big IFV wall still might punish you on a lot of maps, but you have some play here now, and that's quite nice to see. 152nd for sure, getting back into the business here, and it's gonna be nice to see what the good top level players will do with this as well. Let me know down below what you would change in this deck, and see you all in the next one.